The UN Refugee Agency says 45 people have been killed and more than 17,500 others displaced from their homes in Burkina Faso over the past 10 days. Gunmen have carried out several attacks in 3 separate regions in the West African nation. They set homes on fire and shot civilians dead during their attacks. The assailants also ransacked health centers. Attacks by armed groups linked to al-Qaeda and the Islamic State have increased sharply since the start of the year. Burkina Faso's ill-equipped army has struggled to contain the spread of violence. Well, let's now cross over to David Otto-Endeley. He's an international defense and security analyst. He's a director on security for the Horn of Africa Institute for Peace and Security, and he's based in London. David, thank you for joining us on Africa Live. So why are we seeing a sudden rise in attacks in Burkina Faso?
Of course, it's not just Burkina Faso. This is a typical behavior of non-state actors that are linked to both al-Qaeda and the Islamic State in the Gunmen region. I mean, this is where the northeast of Burkina Faso meets the north of Mali, but also Niger Republic. It's a very complex triangle. And what we've seen is that local militias that are linked to either al-Qaeda or the Islamic State continuously try to dominate, very much, destroy or disrupt the social contract, in ungoverned and ungovernable spaces that, the government has very difficulty, expressing its authority. So I think what is happening is not something which is very new. Of course, just in the past 10 days, we saw an attack on the same region, which about 30 people were killed. We also saw the killing of, one Irish and 2 Spaniards, who, were there in the same region. So, it's not a new, type of attack. And, we've seen this in the recent past. And I'm afraid that this might continue, to increase, just like we've seen in the case of Mali and Niger Republic.
So, David, the European Union and the United States have called for a change in strategy, especially in Nigeria. Do you think this can work?
Of course, there is a need for a change of strategy, but I don't think it's in the position of the European Union or the United States or any other country to call for a change of strategy. This is something that has to be done within the states that are impacted themselves. At worst, you should have the African Union calling for a change of strategy. Now, in order to defeat these jihadist groups, within this region, of course, you need to have a comprehensive strategy that looks at the economic impact of recruitment within this region, look at the kinetics which is being used, and the ability for these countries to collaborate. Again, as I mentioned earlier on, these attacks are taking place in an area that is not only linked to the Sahel, but also has very close links to the Lake Chad Basin, which of course Nigeria is one of the countries. So I think the important element here is for these nations that are impacted, to call the attention of the African Union, which is in charge of the region, of course, rather than wait for the European Union or the United States, to give instructions or make remarks about the need for a strategy. It has to be an African-led endeavor, and that's where I think the focus should really be.
All right, David Otto-Endeley joining us there via Zoom from London. Thank you.